2 or 3 or 4? All right, thank you all for being here today. I have some remarks. We have a lot to go through with this very impressive gathering that we have, and this very illuminous number of people who are here. Thank you so much. It's hot. What do we call it sometimes? It's Africa kind of hot. So, good morning. I'll be brief because I'm excited about holding a key today. A key to history, a key to a city, and a key to a legacy. 100. It is a number which is always impressive. It impresses completeness, certainty, or perfection. Those qualities can be both good or bad, depending on circumstances. But such a number also offers the opportunity for reflection. How did something or someone achieve this level? Alex Haley, the writer, the storyteller, the interviewer, the man, never claimed to be, or I believe, ever aspired to be 100% anything. Whether or not the label was writer, storyteller, interviewer, or indeed symbolic icon of genealogy. However, whenever possible, he did pursue the motto to find the good and praise it. In his interviews, in his writing, in his interactions with the loftiest of public officials or the meekest of private figures, he hoped and sought to get at the truth of individuals, the key elements which link all human beings together. To him, that key was family and heritage. I welcome you all who are here today on behalf of the city, the event organizers, and my family to praise and raise up the good in all of our families and to celebrate our roots, legacies of Brother Malcolm's, Grandma Queen's, and countless others whom my Uncle Alex helped us all to appreciate as we reflect on the impressive 100th notation of his birth. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. And now I'm going to ask that you guys put your hands together for our mayor, Gavin Buckley.
Luckily, we got this podium out here in the middle of the sun. I'll be diving in the water to cool off after this. But before I start my remarks, obviously, you know, I wasn't born in Annapolis. But growing up in Australia, we all watched the Roots series, and we all were mesmerised by it. And the fact that I get to be the mayor of this town with this amazing history happens, with so many cool things came to this port, where this town was the Athens of the New World, the cultural center of America, and that this story gets told. Sometimes I really have to pinch myself. So good morning and thank you all for being here to celebrate this 100th birthday for a man who in the modern era put the story of slave trade and its aftermath in a light that was for many novel at the time. He was a trailblazer of the written word, creating his own position in the United States Coast Guard and going on to interview some of the greatest artists, musicians, thinkers, activists of the American post-war era. Happy centennial birthday, Alex Haley. And can we hear it for the Coast Guard too? The reason we are commemorating at this location is because after co-authoring the autobiography of Malcolm X, one of the most influential and enduring non-fiction works of the 20th century, Alex Haley set out to research his own family tree. Now, if you're a recent immigrant or an immigrant who came here of your own volition, you might be able to trace your family's history. Scottish and German ancestors documented their journey across the sea, and many Americans, going back generations, wrote that history down so their descendants could know where they came from. A tiny town in the Italian coast, a hamlet on a mountainside in Switzerland, a seaside village in France, maybe a convict outpost down under. For many African Americans, the knowledge of their ancestors' journey to these shores is a painful history, fraught because of the terror of what being captured and enslaved entailed, but also shrouded in mystery because their families were torn apart. Their history may or may not have been recorded. Today, DNA research has helped us solve some of those mysteries. But back when Alex Haley wanted to unravel the mystery of his family, he had to roll up his sleeves, dig deep, to do the research to find the story of his people. He spent a dozen years tracing his family roots to the very spot we are standing in today. Right here, where our feet are planted, is where ships whose human cargo had endured a harrowing journey across the Atlantic docked. That human cargo, enslaved persons, was sold at auction. Some in the alleys behind the historic buildings that dot the landscape behind you. In his research, Alex Haley learned that 7 generations before he came into this world, his ancestor, Kunta Kinte, was brought to these shores aboard a British slave ship. Alex Haley traced those roots to Africa, to Gambia, to a village where his ancestor was born. When he had enough information, he published Roots, the saga of an American family. We all know how that went. Another bestseller, writing awards, and then a groundbreaking television miniseries that captured the nation and the world's attention. Alex Haley's ties to Annapolis are rooted in the most barbarous chapter of the American story. It was a story that needed to be told, and it is one to tell, and he was the one to tell it. In a Baltimore Sun article, it was reported that exactly 200 years after his ancestors landed here, Alex Haley stood on City Dock, looked out on the water, and wept. We stand here today, unable to change that past. We stand here today to commemorate and celebrate an American storyteller, following in the footsteps of authors who told unique stories of their own African American life experiences. Booker T. Washington, W.E.B. Du Bois, Richard Wright, James Baldwin, among others. We celebrate the life and contributions of Alex Haley. We have a round of applause for that. I want to take this opportunity to recognize and thank Carl Snowden. I'm trying to figure out where. All right, back there, sir. Who is here today? When he was an Annapolis alderman, back with Mayor Alfred Hopkins and Alderman Sam Gilmore, they passed the legislation to create and install this memorial. Thank you, Carl. It is an enduring reminder of what happened here. I know people come from all over the world to see this statue, to contemplate the stories that Alex Haley revealed in his writings. I thank the Alex Haley family, and especially Chris Haley. So I'm going to give a round of applause to him as well. Who continues his family line of work at the Maryland State Archives. You should all go there and visit him. Chris helped us organize today's event. On behalf of the residents of the city of Annapolis, I would like to present you and the Haley family with the keys to the city.
Now is not the time to stop. It's hot out. Yes.
We're taking pictures now. Be sure to join let us Institute page. Haki, I made a success scholar raising consciousness and capital page. So definitely we're going to the Gambia next year. So definitely want to be present for that.
Angle was this way. Do we want this way? Yeah. Okay, here's the angle this way.
They're coming around. Got some good shots here.
We have a bunch of chiefs here.
Yeah, please come up through.
All right, everybody.
Everybody. All right, all the associates, come on up here.
Yeah, I want to say there was people that
How you doing, bro?
it was,
Hi. How you doing? Good to see you. Doing great. Pleasure. Everything's beautiful. Yes.
This is Joe.
Hey,
How are you?
Hey, how you doing, Justin?
Nice to meet you. I'm
Pleasure.
Brooke Champagne.
Oh, great. Nice to meet you, pleasure.
I didn't catch your name. I'm sorry.
Aki.
Aki?
Yes.
Nice to meet
Sorry,
you.
I'm on the central committee.
No, you're good.
All right, pleasure.
My wife had a cold last week.
Oh, no. We should.
We did about 40 COVID tests, so it's not COVID.
Oh, you did?
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
it's one of those,
You said
like,
40?
No, I mean.
Oh, you just.
My wife is a little bit extra.
Oh,
so
okay.
she did 2 at-home ones and a PCR.
Oh, wow. Okay. Oh, yeah.
It's like, we knew it was a cold, but, you can't be too careful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I just want to. feel like if I'm gonna be in public and I had a wife with a cold, I should be extra careful so no one else has to.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah. All right, nice to meet you, bro.
Nice to meet you, sir.
Man. Let me get back over here, y'all.
So I'm going to read a proclamation. I will need my glasses for that. Okay, so this is the City of Annapolis proclamation. Whereas author Alex Haley was born August 11th, 1921 in Ithaca, New York, and whereas Alex Haley spent the early part of his adult life serving his country in the Pacific Theater in World War II in the Coast Guard, and later as the first chief journalist of the United States Coast Guard. And whereas upon his retirement after 20 years in the Coast Guard, Alex Haley continued honing his craft as a writer and a journalist. Noteworthy interviews subjects included Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Muhammad Ali, Miles Davis, Sammy Davis Jr., Malcolm X. And whereas Alex Haley assisted Malcolm X in writing of the autobiography of Malcolm X, the memoir published posthumously became one of the best-selling and most influential non-fiction books in American literature. And whereas, after a dozen years of genealogy research, Alex Haley published the saga of an American family and novelized version of his family story. And whereas Alex Haley's research indicated that he was a seventh-generation descendant of Queen Kintu, an enslaved person kidnapped in Gambia and brought to Maryland on the 18th century British slave ship, the Lord Legionnaire. And whereas Alex Haley's research indicated that Kunta Kinte was sold at auction steps from the Annapolis City Dock. And whereas Roots not only won a Pulitzer Prize, but went on to become an 8-episode television miniseries researching reaching a record-breaking 130 million viewers in its initial run in 1977. And whereas the book and miniseries sparked an interest in African-American genealogy research that has only grown in the intervening years. And whereas in 1992, months after Alex Haley's death, the Annapolis City Council approved funding for a memorial to Haley at the location where the ship that brought Kunta Kinte to Annapolis has landed. And whereas August 11th, 2021 marked the centennial birth of Alex Haley, whose historic connection to our city is commemorated and celebrated. We thank you.
For anyone who did not get that photo, there's always Photoshop. You can put it in.
One more round of applause. Next up, I'm going to be bringing up the Rating Force Master Chief for Public Affairs. Put your hands together for Master Chief Dawes.